Good afternoon, everybody. Happy week before Christmas, or is it week of Christmas? How do you break that down? Somebody asked this. Christmas is on a Sunday, technically the first day of the week, but this is the week going into Christmas, week of Christmas, however you want to call it. It's the holiday week, the holiday week. We are very excited. I love this time of year. I don't know about you guys. If you don't like this time of year, I'm sorry. That's all I got for you. This week at Second Glass for the weekly wine flight and our cellar chats, we are doing, we're keeping it light, we're keeping it fun, keeping it holiday-esque with a few of our favorite things. French things, that is. A few favorite French things. So we are going to go primarily in the Loire Valley and Burgundy. So starting out, little Les Petit Salvard Sauvignon Blanc from the Loire, and then we're going to hop over to Burgundy for some lovely Bourgogne Rouge from Domaine d'Edouard, and we're going to round it out this week for Christmas with our always favorite, and I think probably one of the wines we featured the most this year because we just love it that much, Les Petits Saint Vincent Saumur Champigny, 100% Cab Franc from the Loire Valley. So let's get into it. Hopefully you're all having a pretty amazing holiday week so far in holiday season. Maybe visiting people, maybe you're here visiting, maybe you're just hanging out at home quietly, just you, your significant other, maybe some cats, maybe a dog. But regardless, it's a good time of the year to get out, visit some local restaurants, have some amazing wine, and just celebrate all the great things about life. And I know many people will disagree. I am loving the chilly weather this week. It makes it feel like Christmas. I am from the north, so I can't help myself. I know everyone else likes it to be warm. I like this cool weather because it feels like Christmas. So again, starting out, Les Petits Salvard this week on the weekly wine flights. Little Sauvignon Blanc from the Loire Valley. Say what you want about Sauvignon Blanc. It is a fan favorite for a good reason. It's light, it's fresh, it's crisp, it's easy drinking. It doesn't have any off-putting notes of too much oak, or it doesn't, it rarely tastes steely to me, even though it's done in stainless steel. Like Chardonnay, for whatever reason, if it's done 100% stainless steel, it always tastes kind of steely, which is, they're trying to avoid that buttery oakiness, but it's almost like they went too far. Sauvignon Blanc, on the other hand, it doesn't really come off that way unless it's not super good. But anyways, that's not the case with this wine. Really pretty, kind of like grapefruit, not overwhelming grapefruit like you would expect in New Zealand, but it's subtly there. A little bit of, orange peel citrus, some mineral saline characters. Oh, so refreshing. Even though it's 36 degrees outside, this kind of hits the spot on, That was not maybe the best way to say it. Maybe we should let's rewind. Hits the nail on the head. How about we go with that? That sounds better. Apparently I'm a little off my game this week. Oh, so tasty. There's a little bit of a floral, almost kumquat, citrusy thing going on that I really like. Perfect with oysters, perfect with mussels. 'Tis the season for both of those things, and to have some amazing Sauvignon Blanc. So again, that is the first wine on the wine flight this week. Again, Les Petits Salvard Sauvignon Blanc. Now we're popping over to Burgundy, which you can never go wrong, as I've lost my wine key. Got it. Whew, seriously, really off my game this week. Again, this is Domaine d'Edouard. They are based in the Côte d'Auxerre, which is just outside the Chablis region. So we're way up in the north of Burgundy. This is really primarily white wine area, if you guys are familiar with Chablis, which if you're watching this, hopefully you are, because we've featured Chablis a few times on here. This is a part of Burgundy that's historically really well known for their Chardonnay, although Pinot Noir has been grown here for a while. It's not always been super consistent, and a lot of that has to do with, you know, climate, weather. For the longest time, it was just entirely too cold for Pinot Noir to ripen consistently. Now things have changed quite a bit. Obviously, I've talked about it. Everyone knows climate change has caused a lot of changes across the wine scene, winescape, and the globe in general. But one of the positive outcomes of this is that places that couldn't, you know, consistently ripen certain varieties that maybe had grown there for a long time are now becoming more and more consistent, and that you can produce better wines every year and not be too worried about them either being too tart or underripe. And this being one of them. The Côte d'Artois is pretty well known for Pinot Noir. And actually throughout this entire area, there's a lot of Pinot Noir grown for sparkling wine production. But again, as things warm up and you get more consistent vintages, you start making better and better still red wines. Relatively young producer. And what I really like about this wine, you know, Bourgogne Rouge is made all the way across Burgundy, and it's going to change as you move along because different microclimates, different soils. But, you know, we're in a very cold area, so what you get out of this kind of goes hand in hand with that. You get a little more freshness. I always find this really pretty kind of like orange peel, orange zest character that you don't find very often in Pinot Noir from Burgundy, at least not in my experience. But up here in the north where it's a lot cooler, I almost always get that characteristic. Kind of raspberry, like deeper, like maybe a little like red plum. It's so pretty. A little bit of herbaceousness on here. Really clean and vibrant. Just a beautiful color and really excellent tannin structure. You know, Pinot Noir, generally speaking, people don't think of Pinot Noir as having a lot of tannins because it is a thinner skinned grape and it usually is lighter and there's a little bit more like rounded texture to it. But this has like in my opinion, kind of the perfect amount of tannin structure, enough that it can really stand up to classic French dishes like beef bourguignon, or you could even have, I think this would be really lovely with like lamb or any kind of game that isn't like overwhelming. Beautiful spice, a little bit of that holiday spice thing going on. Yes, all the things. Again, that is the Bourgogne Rouge from Domaine d'Edouard in the Côte d'Artois. All right, we're headed back to the Loire Valley to Saumur Champigny. So this is in the middle Loire. Basically, the Salvard came from kind of Sauvignon Blanc area, which is kind of the eastern side of the Loire, closer to Paris and towards Burgundy. Saumur Champigny is located in kind of the middle Loire, which is really Cabernet Franc haven. I mean, all of the great Cabernet Franc regions are here. You've got Chinon, you have Saumur Champigny, you have, my brain stopped working, so I can't remember any of the other ones. But regardless, the primary grape variety in this entire region, Bourgogne, that's the other one. Primary grape variety is Cabernet Franc, and it varies depending on the village that you're in. You know, from my limited experience, I've always found Chinon to be the most kind of rustic and a little bit more herbaceous on the back end, tends to need a little bit more time in the cellar. Bourgogne always has like this darker tone fruit to it. And then Saumur Champigny is my personal favorite, which I've said, I think, every time we feature this wine. There's just like an elegance and purity in these wines that it's not that you don't find those in the other wines of the different villages that really specialize in Cab Franc here, but there seems to be like a lifted kind of floral characteristic that I always find so pleasing on the nose and on the palate. Oh, wow. Kind of like black, you know, blackberries, raspberries, more on like the fresh, slightly tart side instead of like the overly ripe side. A little bit of like green herbs, beautiful color, you know, a little bit more purple hued. Again, we are talking Cabernet Franc here, so compared to the Pinot, a little more purple hued, but still pretty translucent. Oh, wow. The palate is, you know, even more structured, a little dusty. The one thing that Cabernet Franc does that, and I think this is where it kind of draws the line where people go, oh, I love Cabernet Franc, or I really don't love Cabernet Franc, is that on the nose, there's a good amount of fruit. There's some herbaceous notes, but there's a decent amount of fruit on the nose. But then when you get to the palate, it is very savory, earthy, kind of dusty, but in this like almost like rose petal, like, violet powder kind of characteristic. Like I think about like fresh flowers. Like if you were to eat like edible flowers, they always have like this kind of powdery thing going on. I don't know. It's a textural thing. I don't really know how else to explain it. But I always find Cabernet Franc kind of has that. And it's like a granular like tannin structure that I think is very like kind of soft and suave, to throw out a bunch of S words. Regardless, the wine is delicious. And Cab Franc is pretty much great all the time. Particularly great this time of year. Again, that earthy, kind of dusty structural element really goes good with heartier foods, really delicious cheeses. I mean, this is meat and cheese board season. All year long is really meat and cheese board season. But the holidays, I mean, you go to anybody's house, and if they don't have some cheese and maybe some charcuterie out, you went to the wrong house. Go somewhere else. Regardless, this wine is excellent. Again, this is Le Petit Saint Vincent, their Saumur Champigny. That is rounding out this week's wine flights going into the Christmas holiday. Please come out, have some amazing flights, grab a few plates from Chef and the team. They're doing a great job. Really amazing stuff coming out of the kitchen lately. And, spend time with your loved ones and enjoy Christmas. And we will see you guys next week.